Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Wassalatu wassalam ala ashrafil mursalin. In this lesson, we will be focusing on macroeconomic objective of low and stable inflation. We start with definition and look how the inflation rate is measured in most countries. Inflation simply is a sustained increase in the cost of living or the general price level leading to a fall in the purchasing power of money. How quickly prices are rising in an economy. So let's understand some key terms here when it comes to inflation. We have given 4 different years. Year 1, 2, 3, and 4 with dissimilar inflation rates. 3% of year 1, 4% for year 2, and 1% for year 3, and minus 2% for year 4. Now let's understand what types of inflation is occurring in these years. If we are looking to year 2, inflation rate is 4%. Prices rise fast in comparison to year 1, which was 3%. We call that rising inflation. Rising inflation is a rise in general level of prices and reduces the purchasing power of money. We see in year 3 inflation which is still positive, 1%, but that rate is lower than the year before. Year 2. We call this disinflation. Disinflation is a fall in the rate of inflation from 5% to 1%. Prices are still rising, but at a slower rate. Deflation occurs when prices is actually falling in an economy. That means the inflation rate is a negative, that what we see in 4 years, minus 2%. So this is deflation, which signifies by an annual inflation rate below 0%. When looking at inflation, we take into consideration changes in prices over time. The government tracks the prices of specific market basket that includes the same goods and services. So there are 2 ways to look at the inflation rate. The first one is the price indices, where the index numbers assigned to each year that show how prices have changed relative to specific base years. To illustrate, we have one example. The Consumer Price Index, CPI, in Algeria from June 2016 to February 2020 was 211.27 compared to base year 2016-19. So we consider 211.27 as a number index. The second one is the inflation rate, which show you the percent change in prices over a specific time period. For instance, the inflation rate in Algeria was recorded at 1.70% in February of 2020. The most commonly used measurement of inflation for consumers is a CPI, or Consumer Price Index, which measure the price level in the economy based on the prices of a collection of products designed to reflect the consumption basket of the average consumer. Here is how it works. The base year is given an index number of 100. Each year is given an index as well. So there is an equation. CPI equal the value of the market basket divided by price of market basket in base year times 100. So we try to make more sense with this example. We calculate CPI of 2018 relative to base year 2019. We have 40 divided by 50 times 100 equal 80. So CPI of 2018 is 80. Calculating inflation relative to previous year, not to base year. Here there is an equation. Percent change in prices equal CPI of year 2 minus CPI of year 1 divided by CPI of year 1 times 100. So here we try to assume with one example. CPI for year 1 2016 is 75 and CPI for year 2 2017 is 90. Now the question is, what is the inflation rate between these 2 years? So we calculate 90 minus 75 divided by 75 times 100. We get 15 divided by 75 times 100. So the inflation rate between these 2 years is 20%. One of the effects of inflation is that it can lead to arbitrary changes in the distribution of real incomes and wealth in a country. So we have losers, those hurt by inflation. Now, lenders, if real interest rates are negative, workers in a low-paid jobs, and retired on a fixed incomes, and we have as well savers if real returns are negative. And we have winners, those helped by inflation. The first, we have borrowers, people who borrow money, and then we have producers if prices rise faster than cost. In general, uncontrolled inflation is bad because banks don't lend and people don't save, so investment and the gross domestic product or GDP decrease. So for further research, try to answer the following questions, such as: why is inflation difficult to forecast accurately? Why high inflation is an economic problem? What are the main causes of inflation? And the last one, what are the consequences of inflation? So thank you very much for your attention. Good luck.